Greetings, friends. It is Dr. Stephanie Lipnicki and
Dr. Rob Balko.
And we are here again with the Practical Medicine Podcast. It is our goal with this podcast to bring awareness about the many different ways to maintain health and heal your body, mind, and spirit, from acupuncture to Zen living and everything in between. Welcome to podcast number 6. Dr. Rob will be talking to us about allergies and how he tackles them with his patients. And he does this without using needles. So this will focus on a non-acupuncture treatment today.
Somewhere between acupuncture and Zen.
Yes, exactly. And we're starting with allergies. So some little tidbits about allergies. It is estimated that 50 million Americans suffer from allergies, 30% of the adult population and 40% of the kids population. Of that number, it is estimated that 32 million of those allergies are food allergies. And according to the CDC, 8% of children in the U.S. suffer from food allergies.
And more than 10 years ago, when I started working with this program, the system, the numbers were about the same.
Yeah.
So we're really not making any progress with treating allergies. Kids are still getting them at a young age.
Right.
Some of the numbers you see, where we go from 40% of the kid population to 30% of the adult population, is because some of them will grow out of an allergy or two. But by and large, we're still having the same allergies in the young population and in the older population.
And I think, too, sometimes with adults, like people can go their whole lives and not have an allergy and then develop an allergy as an adult as well. So it goes that way as well. Severe allergies account for 1 million emergency room visits per year. Allergies are considered the 6th ranking cause of chronic disease. And the Western treatment is primarily antihistamines, either over-the-counter or prescription, which cause the side effects of fatigue, headache, and dry mouth. Some people go for the allergy shots, which we'll discuss a little bit later on how that works and doesn't work.
I've had some patients who are actually allergic to histamine.
Okay.
So their body's own histamine response becomes now another
allergic response
to mitigate. Yeah.
Great. So some of those symptoms for our allergy sufferers: runny nose, postnasal drip, itchy eyes, dry skin, eczema, psoriasis as you itch, respiratory distress, and asthma.
And now I'm seeing also, in addition to these headaches, migraines, and even neurological impairment, patients will tell me after eating, say, they have trouble focusing.
Okay.
Right. They can't get the words out. They know what they want to say.
Like a brain fog.
But they can't put the sentence together. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize some of the things that they may be experiencing in their lives are related to allergies.
It's true.
So how did you yourself get into deciding that that was going to be one of your specialties in treating allergies?
Well, first I got into acupuncture. I had 2 small boys, and we were looking for ways to keep the kids healthy, and we found an herbalist acupuncturist, and it turned out he used allergy treatment that was really amazing. We were seeing great results in the kids. I got treated. I had some minor allergies, and that really turned me on. I thought, this is really cool. You can do that too, in addition to the usual things we've talked about already. And then what happened was, typically you'd see about a 60% success rate, 60, maybe 70% success rate with treating with acupuncture. And I got an... But
it's also repeated. I feel like when I'm treating, because I don't do the system you do, I just do acupuncture. And I seem to feel like patients need a boost when they come in, which is why I'm so excited about learning about this from you, because I feel like this might be something that my patients would want to try. Not that they're not having success with acupuncture, but they tend to, if it's a seasonal allergy, they're coming back like a couple months before that particular allergy season peaks so that they can get it under control.
Right. And I see that as you're boosting their immune system so they can better manage what they're being exposed to.
Right.
And then in this system, the thought process is that the body has developed a sensitivity to whatever it might be, right?
Right.
Cat, dander, mold, dust, trees, flowers, plants, and it's sort of stuck that way. And what the treatment does is to reset that reaction in the body so that once someone gets a treatment, they don't have to come back. And I've had people from 2009 who got treatment, and I'll run into them somewhere and I'll say, hey, how's that allergy? And they say, I don't have it anymore.
Fantastic.
People find their Claritin in the closet long expired and they throw it away because they don't need it anymore. Yeah. So.
And how did you find the system that you use? Is it the same one as the practitioner you went to, or it's different?
It was not. Yeah, this was relatively new in 2009. It may have come out in 2007 or something like that. And I got an email about it as an acupuncturist. I'm sure they got my name off the state mailing list or something like that. And they were saying that they had 90% plus success rates. And another big thing that drew me to the system was the older system. You would have these little vials, and they each represented something, right? So you'd have a chicken mix. So it would represent any kind of chicken allergy. You would use this vial.
So whether it was poultry or eggs.
Right. Or you might have them two broken out.
Okay.
But still, it would only have, say, eggs, right? The egg mix, for example. This system has all that information loaded on the computer, and it's broken down so I could say, are you allergic to eggs with a test? And then we can delve deeper and say, is it the albumin? Is it some other compounds in there that naturally occur?
Okay.
Even antibiotics are listed in there. So we can test that. So it gets to that level of specificity where that's why we're getting such a higher success rate.
Right.
And it's easily organized. Now I don't have to keep track of these boxes.
All these tiny little vials.
Right.
And pull them out each time.
Right. And put them back into the right place at the end of that treatment.
And not a lot of practitioners are doing this, though, you said.
Right. There are about 4 people in New Jersey that I know of. And I really don't know of 2 of them really practicing it. And there's one.
They were trained, but they might not be using it in their practice. Yeah. Maybe they're specializing in something else and they've put it to the wayside because they don't want to.
Yep. Yep. So the library, like I said, has about 60,000 items in it that I can test for. Everything from food, animals, anything airborne, pollens, trees, leaves, grass, pharmaceuticals.
Are those the most common the most common allergies that you treat?
Yeah, mostly you'll see pets, foods, and then the airborne things like ragweed, pollens, grasses, mown grass. People have a reaction to, right? Yeah. They've got to close the window when they hear the lawnmower go or something.
Right.
Yep.
And you said, but it's not just those things. There are environmental things as well. Some other things.
There can be, sure. Even dampness, sunshine. I've had a couple of patients I treated who were very fair-skinned and would get red blotchy reaction from sitting out back under an umbrella. And with the treatment, it goes away.
Yeah, I remember I had a classmate, because if listeners don't remember, Rob and I went to different acupuncture schools, and I remember I had a classmate that she would say, and because water is not the same no matter where you are, like I have well water, city water is different, and she would get hives from water, different, it could even be in the shower that she would have an allergic reaction to the water or a sensitivity, be it, whatever it was.
And that's a really important point is people can be allergic to vitamins and minerals, and they're in everything.
Right.
So, vitamins are naturally occurring in so many foods that now we don't know why we're allergic because it seems.
Is it the food or is it something that's in the food, a component of the food?
Right.
Which is what's great because you said it gets down to the specificity of that you can pinpoint, is it calcium in spinach and not that spinach allergy is common. I don't think I've come across someone, but someone out there is probably allergic. Have you? Yeah. See, I haven't had a spinach allergy. I get a lot of seasonal allergies, So, which is the other question I had. So if someone has multiple allergies, which is not uncommon, we see a lot of people with one or two like different pollen allergies or outdoor environmental or different food allergies, do you treat each of those things separately, or do you feel like when patients have multiple allergies, it's like, okay, we're going to do this category and then this category, and then it is a series of treatments?
It's more like that. It's more of a series of treatments, especially when there are airborne items. We'll want to get them first.
Okay.
It really depends on what they bring to the table, say. Let's say it's ragweed. Well, ragweed is a fall seasonal allergy, maybe springtime for some people.
Right.
So for now, I would focus on the food and then get to that before the season comes for that allergy. So it really depends on the person. But really important is to look at the food items and see, back to what we were just saying about the component level.
Right.
Is if, let's say, we treat a certain food, and by treating that, we've treated, say, calcium, like you brought up.
Okay.
Right? Now we've treated calcium. So across the board, anything that was calcium
related
based is going to be clear.
Very cool.
So now we'll go back maybe on treatment number 3, and we'll treat another food. And if the cause was only calcium, we've already treated it. So we can skip that one.
Are they keeping like logs of the different things? Like maybe like a food diary, and kind of reporting back symptoms to you at all?
Yeah, people will do that. Yeah. And then they'll challenge it, right? Like we'll, for example, treat spinach, and they'll wait a couple hours or wait until the next day. And then the light bulb goes off in their head because they've
You're laughing at me because
they've been able to eat that, and they don't get the normal reaction that they're getting. Yeah. There's a 2-hour wait between the treatment and the next time you want to be exposed to that thing.
Okay, so you do it for, let's say, like you said, calcium, and then you, like, if they're thinking it's from food, then you just tell them don't eat for the next 2 hours.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll know that before they come in, so they can have a meal.
Right.
They could eat anything they want
beforehand,
5 minutes before coming in, and then just wait for 2 hours before they get exposed to it again.
Right. So then along those lines about the treating, multiple allergies, let's say there's a mold allergy. We know we have all these different types of molds. Are you treating each of those molds, or just the broad category of molds? Or is it you're treating dampness and then mold?
We're treating the molds specifically. Right?
Okay.
I'm going to first identify that they are reacting to mold, and then I'm going to delve deeper and say which exact varieties of mold. Is it Aspergillus? Is it Acromedes? Mucor? It's to the point now where I have them in my head.
All these like great names.
Like that
all
looks
these
familiar.
Latin things,
all these great Latin names.
It's so funny because on a totally different note, everyone's like, there's no need for Latin in high school. And I'm like, yeah, I would have liked to have taken Latin because all the muscle groups that we have to learn and all the herbs that I had to learn. I'm like, that would have been a little bit dumb. And so then again, another along those lines. So you would treat vegetables separately from fruits and not fruits as a whole category? Like, are they subcategorized as well? Like, there are certain ones lumped together?
Certain ones are lumped together. They're too disparate to treat together. Like, you wouldn't treat apple and a stone fruit, like peaches. So you can treat all the stone fruit together. That's a nice little benefit. You can treat all apples together. You can treat all citrus together. Yeah.
So they can kind of be,
Yeah. The system helps you figure it out, actually. It'll tell you whether you can include that as a top level category. Do you have to go further down? Like meats all come from, can be treated together. So we could treat beef and mutton and chicken, all together, but only so many in a treatment. Right. So going back to mold, there's many mold varieties, or the sinus fungi. There's so many that it's going to take more than one treatment. But once we clear that item, it's clear.
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone has had allergies for years, I mean, I've had people come in and they're like, I've suffered with allergies. Sometimes it's even people coming in for something completely different. And as an aside, they'll say, I've been on allergy medication for the last, I don't know, let's say 4 years. Does it take longer to treat if it's been a longer allergy, or it's just, it's so fine-tuned that, like, if I say I've had a mold allergy for 10 years, it's not going to, like, there's a certain calculation that we sometimes use with pain. Like if someone has had low back pain for 10 years, I'm like, listen, 1 month for every year you've had it. Is it like that with this?
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as we can identify exactly what it is, then that will determine the number of treatments we need to do.
Okay.
And that number is really based on the number of items. It's not based on longevity or severity or anything like that.
More like how many different ones you have. Like if I have 10 different allergies, then, and none of them are categorized together, they have to be eliminated separately.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. I have a patient right now, we're kind of finishing up really, she's probably around 60 and she's had these allergies her entire life. She doesn't remember
ever not having them.
Her mom tells her she had them when she was small. And her son has very similar allergies. Very interesting. Yep. And we're working our way through stuff one after the other. She's coming in with a list and, she gets excited because now she can eat this food again.
That she hasn't comfortably had in a long time.
Yeah. Every meal is a decision. And one of the strange effects she's getting is that it gives her insomnia. She knows she won't be able to sleep.
From the allergies.
From the allergy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is the anxiety of knowing about the allergy, or...
That's a good question.
So she's sleeping better as a result of eliminating all of these different things.
In addition to the usual, scratchy throat, itchy eyes, symptoms like that.
Very cool.
It's
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
I want to make sure I got all my points that I wanted to cover.
And do you combine acupuncture with the allergy system? Do you not do them on the same day generally? Because I know you still sometimes, sometimes somebody is come in with that, but have a completely different thing and you're treating them for acupuncture with that. Do you separate those out, or?
I'll separate them. Sometimes I'll do both in the same day.
Okay.
But typically it's for something else, right? I had a woman with eczema around her eyes, and we were treating the allergies that are causing that, but the skin was still dry and flaky and itchy and stuff like that. So put her on the table. I treated that, and that 2 or 3 treatments cleared that up. Feeling much, much better now. So now we're going to go back to the allergy stuff and work on that. Clearing other things. The other point I wanted to make about treatments, how many treatments and stuff like that, is the only time I've struggled was with people with severely compromised immune systems.
Okay.
Right, because we see that kind of seesaw with immune function versus sensitivity, allergy reaction, right?
Okay.
When people's immune systems are suppressed, they start to react to things.
Right, and become more sensitive.
Right, and that's why, an acupuncture treatment will boost that.
Right.
And then they're getting through the season pretty well, right? But in the case of this one woman, she had a lot of chemo.
Okay.
And the allergy treatment would not really last very long.
Okay.
Usually, like I said, if I treat you for dog dander, you don't come back. Unless you're exposed to it excessively.
Okay.
And that's where you really see it. That's where you run into problems. Sugar, because there's so much sugar in people's diet. Wheat, alcohol. Alcoholics will be allergic to alcohol. So you'll get all those reactions in the brain. And animals.
Okay.
People
who are allergic but don't want to get rid of their animals, and then they're exposed again.
Or they work with animals all day. They may have them in their room, so they're exposed to that, and it puts a load on the system. Yeah. So,
you mentioned wheat before. Now, there's 2 different things that can go on. We have the celiac, who there's a genetic component that they can't have wheat, and someone who is either allergic or sensitive to it. Like in the case of endometriosis, a lot of people are sensitive, but with something like celiac, obviously this is not going to change the genetics of someone who has that, but they may have an episode where, let's say, they go out to eat somewhere and there's cross-contamination. If they were to do something like this, would that lower, like they're not vomiting, let's say? for hours and hours and hours after. Like they're still going to have a reaction, obviously, because it's genetic, but that maybe the severity is less.
That's correct. Yeah, it'll definitely help with symptoms, but it's not going to clear
it's not going to reverse it.
You know, just like lactose intolerance,
right?
Is you do not have the enzyme to break down lactose.
You're not going to make them have the enzyme,
right.
But the reaction might not be as bad.
Right.
So on that note, a food allergy versus a food intolerance, is there any difference with how you would treat them if it's an allergy versus, I think I'm sensitive to this?
Yeah. When it comes to the strict definition of an allergy, it has to be found in the marker in the blood, right? And what we have found is there's so many more sensitivities that people have. And that's where this system really shines, is they'll come to me with that list from an allergist and we'll work on them, but we'll also find the other underlying things.
You said, if it's components of it, that'll show up, where they may think I'm allergic to, I don't know, let's say detergent, but it's not really the detergent. It's one ingredient in the detergent. The ingredients,
right. And sometimes that's hard to find because they don't, there's no meal that kicks it off. There's no walk in the park that kicks it off.
Right.
We've had cases really where it turned out to be the cotton they were wearing.
Oh, wow.
They changed brands and the symptoms started to go away, but kept coming back because they were switching back and forth.
Okay.
With the clothing they were wearing.
Okay.
Or a personal care product. So they woke up in the morning and they were fine. So, that's a big marker for us, or a big flag, right? Is if you wake up with symptoms, it's probably the bedding. Could be postnasal drip, right? That's caused by sinusitis.
Right.
Could be dust mites in the bedding. Could be dust in the room.
Okay.
But if you get up and then start sneezing 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, what have you done in between?
That triggered something.
Right. So then we start the interview there, right?
Okay.
Well, okay, so you went into the bathroom and tell me all the things you touched, right?
Okay.
Toothpaste, mouthwash, the toothbrush itself, right? Shampoo, makeup,
all those different things.
Deodorant, antiperspirant.
Right.
And it can be one of those things.
Okay.
So you really have to delve in sometimes and, because people forget, right? These are all the things we do as habits.
Routines that you're not even thinking of. Absolutely.
Right. There was actually a case where someone was allergic to the plastic of the steering wheel of their car.
Oh my gosh.
And what happened was they were involved in an accident and they clutched and grabbed the steering wheel. So whenever they got in the car, they got a reaction. Their throat closed up, all sorts of stuff like that. But she talked about that. So we found the plastic and we treated it.
Okay.
Right.
Now, was it just because of how tightly she gripped that it caused, now it did something to the steering wheel, or it was just?
No, there's a school of thought that connects emotion to this also.
I was going to say, was it a traumatic reaction that she was having?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In one of the earliest talks I did on this system, I was at the natural food market down the road, and this woman told this story of how she was eating strawberries when she opened up her Dear John letter.
Oh.
Right? The love of her life.
Yikes.
And she could not eat strawberries. She would have an anaphylactic reaction.
Oh, no.
And, fast forward 25, 35 years or something, she met some man who swept her off her feet and, she felt safe and loved by this man, and the strawberry allergy went away.
Wow. Fantastic.
So there's a lot to be said for that,
right.
emotional component.
So if there's a severe allergy, let's say, I hate to use the peanut allergy because that's a common one, example, but I'm going to use the peanut allergy, where sometimes people have an anaphylactic reaction where they're carrying an EpiPen because if it even touches them.
Right.
Is this system something that you're like, oh yeah, let's jump into that? Or
I don't encourage it.
Okay.
I don't want to give them that false sense.
Right.
Peanut is in there,
right,
along with all the other nuts and legumes and such.
Okay.
But I don't encourage that with people.
I would imagine not, but I figured I would ask because I figured someone might be wondering, well, what about something that's so severe? Yeah. But let's say that person has other allergies that are not as severe. You can then still treat those. You can't, it's not like you would go, oh, well, they have a peanut allergy. I'm not going to even try and fix these other ones, you can work on the other allergies.
Absolutely.
So let's say someone has seasonal allergies, and they're not even sure what it's for. They don't know if it's ragweed. They don't know if it's pollen. They don't know if is it the trees? Is it one specific tree? And they've never had, like, let's say the scratch test, which is where, if somebody is not familiar with the scratch test, is you go in and you have, the scratching, they scratch your back with a bunch of different things to see where you react. How does that work? Like, they come in and they don't know.
Whether they know or not, I usually run them through the initial testing list that I have. And there's a respiratory component.
Okay.
Right. So it's I'm bringing it up right here so I can talk
me through it.
Every one of them. It includes cats and dogs and cockroaches. I'm not sure why.
No, I actually knew someone who was allergic to cockroaches.
Okay. I'm sure it's there for a reason.
So they babysat my kids.
Okay.
And they were talking about that there were cockroaches in the high school.
Wow.
In Allentown. Yes. And that, like, she would be in school and have a reaction. So
right.
I actually know someone who had that.
Yeah. Okay. So more to your point
with
the dogs and cats.
Sorry about the categorizing and stuff.
Is dust.
Okay.
Dust and dust mites, flowers, fungus, grass, mildew, molds, plant phenolics.
Okay.
I'll get back to in a second. Plants, pollens, weeds, the sinus biosubstances that we have, the fungus that we have, trees. Okay. And I said plant phenolics is there are these naturally occurring compounds in plants.
Right.
They could be plants we eat or plants we don't eat.
Okay.
So that we will either ingest them or we'll inhale these things.
From the environment. And
they're acids, they're aldehydes, they're, these words that no one wants to even try to pronounce, right? Aldehydes and monophenols and stuff like that. So it's really important to check for them and test them because they show up in so many foods. And this is what I was getting at earlier, is if we can identify something at that level, we could probably knock out
several things.
A number of foods.
So it's an umbrella category.
Or a number of aromatic type things.
Right. So it's an umbrella category, and then you're testing them, it triggers that, and then you can go to the subcategories to try and see which ones it is.
Well, any given treatment, right? Well, let's say it's mold. We're going to start with mold, and then we're going to go to the particular mold varieties, right? Species of mold. And then within each one of them, we may check for components to see if there's a component that's affecting them, right? And then there's a treatment at every level there. So there's 3 treatments really that we would be doing there.
Okay.
Right. Another thing I do initially with people is what's called priority foods.
Okay.
And
like I tell you, I really want to eat this food. Can you fix it for me? Like sugar is my crack.
Let's see if sugar is in there. Sugar is in there.
I'd like you to make me not like sugar.
Oh, well,
I know that's not going to happen.
For $200 a month, so 1 year commitment, we can talk to Annie. And but this includes foods that are just everywhere, right?
Okay.
Beans, chicken, chocolate, coffee, corn, dairy, eggs, the flavor enhancers and colorings.
Okay.
So that when you eat out, what are the odds that there's some little packet that they put into the meal to
that you don't
give
know
it that
about.
flavor, right? You don't know what that is, and that could be what's causing the problem.
Right.
My point is, we want to treat these things first.
Okay.
So that get them out of the way, because these are probably, that foundation that everything else is going to be based off of.
So let's say I come to you and I'm on an over-the-counter or prescription allergy med. In order for this to work, do I have to stop it a certain amount of time beforehand? Can I still be on it when I come and see you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What people will often do is they'll try to wait a little longer after the treatment.
Okay.
They'll try and wait a little longer and they'll realize they can.
Okay.
And then they may wind up maybe taking 2 a day instead of 3, 1 a day instead of 2, or some of them may just stop. Some of them are afraid to stop. They can't get their head around it, even though they're coming, right?
Right.
Deal with that sort of stuff all the time. But one funny story I had was I treated a guy and he had postnasal drip, did the sinusitis protocol, and normally he would wake up by feeling the trickle in his throat.
Okay.
And it would jar him awake at 6:30 in the morning. So he let me know that he actually was late for work because his alarm clock, his natural dysfunctional alarm clock,
the postnasal drip
didn't wake him up in time.
Oh, that's funny. Excellent story though, of like how, was he skeptical or just so used to that's how he woke up that he didn't realize he was going to need, an alarm? Yeah,
he was a little skeptical. We were doing acupuncture, and I maybe I've had just gotten the system or something. Hey, you want to give this a try? I think it could be very helpful for you, And there you go. Didn't wake up.
So sometimes there's that triad where somebody has allergies and asthma. Is it common that they don't need their inhaler as frequently or their asthma medication as frequently?
Mm-hmm. That's what I've seen. Okay,
so another positive side effect.
Yeah, Daryl is commenting that it's probably the cockroach feces.
Yeah, she's probably right.
So I'm gonna go look.
Yeah, she's probably right.
Cockroach excrement.
Excrement. It's
very specific, and the casing, and there are a couple molecules that are implicated, and there's individual types.
Wow. So this is within your system, so that people know, like, you're going through the system right now and looking at what the subcategories are.
Yeah, this can be pretty fun with a patient because you get to delve into it. I mean,
so it's not just the cockroaches themselves.
Cockroaches aren't a great example to linger on.
Right.
But there are Asian cockroaches, Australian, dusky
so it
brown.
could even be something for a different type of cockroach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This, the woman who developed the system was either Australian or moved to Australia.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Australian stuff in here also. So if you're
like those big, disgusting killer spiders that you see on like YouTube videos. So Ming isn't here tonight. Christian has stepped in. He's probably so sorry that he stepped in tonight. He's going to be like, never again. Just cancel their podcast.
Do I have to listen to this?
Yeah, Ming, I'm not around that day.
Sorry,
in the
can't
future. We got another comment from Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
I personally tested positive for allergies to that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
come on down.
Yeah, we think Daryl needs to come and visit in Jersey. Even for other reasons, because we just love Daryl.
That's right. So while I was looking, I just was reminded that MSG is another one.
In so many different things.
People don't think of that, or they will say, oh, I can't eat it. I know that restaurant uses MSG. I get a headache all the time. So we can clear that if you want. And anybody listening, feel free to chime in with questions and we'll take a look. We'll see if we can find your strangest substance to treat.
We like the weird ones.
That's right.
Is there a difference when you have someone who has a skin allergy versus respiratory allergy versus digestive allergy?
The treatment is always the same.
It's always the same.
Yep. At the end, we'll kind of show you what a basic treatment would look like.
And I think when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, you said that like when you treat psoriasis, the allergy, like if there's a trigger that's making the psoriasis worse, that clears up before the skin clears up. So that's where you jump in and you said you do the acupuncture to help the skin part resolve a little quicker. Mm-hmm. When the skin is healing, it's an existing irritation though. It's not usually ongoing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's just going to take some time for the skin to heal up and get rid of that dry, damaged tissue.
When you were talking about the vials before, so is it similar to muscle testing where when people do muscle testing, they would like hold, like I have hibiscus tea, I'm holding it, and you would test to see if that was a good thing or a bad thing. But you said it takes the vials out of it.
Right. I'll even just, if I can't find it, or if it's a weird combination like that, like a chemical that's not in here.
Okay.
Right now, I have a patient of mine coming back from 2007, I think. He lives in North Jersey, and he kind of lost track of me. But his allergy is back, and what it is to the dental, false teeth.
Oh.
Right? There's a resin that the dentist will use to build certain structures, to give it the right shape so that
it looks like they're your teeth.
It looks like your teeth. And he reacts to that. And I treated it way back then, and he's coming tomorrow.
Okay.
So he was sending me pictures of the box that it comes in, this resin.
Okay.
And we're going to go for it. The system has a dental resin. I was hoping for something real specific,
right.
One of these crazy words that we keep talking about, like the, ethyl methyl death or something.
Right.
Like that,
yes. So will he bring the actual container with him, or you're not even going
to? Yeah, he can bring that.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's another way to do it.
It's interesting that you say that, because in my house, we were just talking about Andrew's daughter, with having braces, there's so many things that can go along with it. Like my daughter had a palate expander, and I guess they were thinking his daughter needed a palate expander, and she has all these sensitivities to metals. Like she's had her ears pierced twice. The earrings pushed themselves out of her earlobes. It was like, I could see, I was like, something is not right. So something like that, like they were saying, if they pull certain teeth, they can't put an implant in because they're assuming that she wouldn't be able to tolerate a dental implant if they, try and fix it that way. Mm-hmm. So that might be something she would, consider at some time. So, can you treat other things like other than allergies with this? Like that, the general allergies, like could you treat, I don't know, let's say, I take a medication and I have all the side effects to it, but and I need this medication.
Sure.
And I don't want to have to go through trials of like 5 different medications to try and find the right one. I can't even think of what, you would have 5 different options for, but I'm just throwing it out there.
But you're right. There are 3 and 4 different blood pressure medications.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take blood pressure medications.
And, cholesterol medications and such. I had a patient just recently get put on Cymbalta.
Okay.
And right away had stomach problems.
Okay.
Digestive upset. Right. And was following all the rules, eat a meal first, all that stuff.
Right.
And one treatment, and I think it's been a month now, 6 weeks.
Okay.
And,
you guys have another comment from Daryl. I have a patient with severe allergies, with a severe allergy to dust mites, has tried many interventions, including, not even going to attempt to pronounce that.
Acupuncture?
Oh, no. Oh, acupuncture. Herbs, pharmaceuticals. See, I underestimated myself, okay? Each has been somewhat helpful, but none definitive. What would be the best help for this patient?
To get this treatment.
So basically call y'all.
Yeah. Well, not me, because I don't. Yeah. Dr. Rob does it, not me.
Kidding aside, there is a specific section for dust mites, and I run through that all the time. So often people have that. They wake up in the morning, their stuffy nose, itchy eyes.
Right, because there's dust mites.
It's in their bedding, and most allergists say change your bedding every day.
Oh, that's a lot.
Launder your
I'm laughing
sheets
just because
and pillowcase every single day.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. And take Claritin, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so we do this treatment, and I don't think there's too many dust mites.
Too many subcategories.
Yeah, there's probably 1 or 2 treatments at the most, something like that. Yep.
And you said something before about a specific sinusitis protocol that you used with a patient.
Yeah, the sinusitis one that they discovered was because it's a little more intricate. There's so many fungi that naturally live in our sinus cavities.
Okay.
So the protocol for that is to find all of them and then prioritize them. So you kind of juggle back and forth. You don't just say, I'll start at A and we'll go to Z and we'll treat as many as we can today. We grab the first bunch and then we kind of go back and forth and test them to make sure they're compatible. Similar to like we were saying about fruit, is that they need to work together, or fit together.
Okay.
Yeah. Another question further up was the sun. We did chat about that a little bit. Some people are allergic to stimuli. There's a whole section in the system for stimuli. The sun, for fair-skinned people, their skin will get blotchy and itchy, and it's uncomfortable. So they get a histamine reaction, right? Just from being in the sun. Yeah. So a treatment would take care of that. before I'll go back to stimuli in a second, I wanted to point out in grass pollens, you have a cross reaction with melons, oranges, peaches, white potatoes, and tomatoes.
Okay.
So, when I
So
treat
these are
one,
foods that might not be an issue until the summer when grass cutting occurs all the time. And they'll say, but I eat this food all the time, and now all of a sudden it's a problem.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Right.
Okay.
And there are numerous cross reactions like that. So when I'm treating something, I'll see a little flag in the system. It'll say, check for that too.
Okay.
We'll have a conversation, and they'll say, I hate potatoes. I never eat them. I say, okay. You don't have to.
That's like a crime.
Well,
I would have to kick them out of my office.
There are criminals in the world.
Like potatoes. The potato is so diverse. It can be a potato chip. It can be breakfast. It can be dinner.
I was in Ireland, and I actually had, I think, 3 different potato varieties on one plate for dinner.
Nice. I'd be in heaven. I love potatoes.
So back to stimuli.
Yes.
People can actually react to barometric pressure.
Okay.
Right, atmospheric pressure, altitude, airplane air, the change from cold to hot, or changes from any temperature to another one. Cold to hot, hot to cold, cool to warm, damp cold, damp heat. Sometimes you need to check all these things.
Was the system developed by an acupuncturist? Because I just know that I was going to say the terms are so related to Asian medicine and like the damp heat and the, taking the environmental factors into consideration.
Yeah. And once we identify and treat some things and their components, when we get to that level, the next thing we do is actually test that list against each meridian. Okay. To see if the meridian is being affected.
Interesting.
So very often you'll find food is affecting the spleen meridian. The airborne stuff is affecting the lung. Okay. Right. Some of the more emotional type stuff that it turns out that it's more emotional affects the heart, pericardium. Okay. It's kind of interesting to see which one of those might pop up.
Like the strawberry after the breakup.
Right.
I would imagine not just like that would affect the heart. How does it work with like auto-inflammatory things? Like there's this huge auto-inflammatory component with endometriosis. So like I generally follow, it's called the Stanford Monash FODMAP, FODMAP diet. And there are so many foods on that like I could be fine with it one day. And like, maybe like you were saying, it's the combination of grass is irritating me or something else. Right. And they trigger inflammation. I'll get like, they call it endobelly, like where people be like, oh, are you having a baby? And I'm like, no, just fat. Thank you. Just fat.
Just fat today.
Just fat today. And that's literally, you could be fat in the morning and your pants are like falling off later on in the day because that's how endobelly works. It's the beauty of endobelly. I need maternity pants and now I need skinny jeans. Do you work through those foods? Yeah. Is it something that would be ongoing because it's a component of the inflammatory process so that you'd have to do it like a little more frequently maybe?
Well, what happens when we start getting into autoimmune, right, is the tissue is attacking itself, right? So it turns out, and then we start identifying our own tissues as being
like an enemy.
An enemy. And this system has a whole section called biosubstances. Okay. Where we go from enzymes and hormones all the way up to organs, tissue, glands. Okay. So we can check the uterus, for example, the uterine lining, neurotransmitters, right? The stomach lining, the small intestine lining. Okay. Even if you remember the word chyme.
Yes.
Right. When we're digesting.
CHYME for people who are like, what?
Crossword puzzle.
Now you can do the New York Times crossword.
So chyme is a substance that we actually create when we digest food, right? We goes through the stomach, hydrochloric acid starts to break it down, right? Neutralizes it. And then we add pepsin and,
all these other things.
I'll skip the other parts that I honestly don't remember. But the result of that is chyme. And you can actually be allergic to your own chyme. crazy. But that's one of the priority things for me to check. Right
so
up
that's
front.
the first thing, which goes back to what we say all the time. So many things go back to digestion and strengthening digestion. And it, the stronger your digestion is, the healthier you are. And
you are what you eat.
So what does a session look like? I come in, I think I'm coming, let's say I decide I want to come in for acupuncture for low back pain. And on the intake form, I mention all these other things. Mm-hmm. Maybe I get acupuncture that day and you talk to me about the allergy system. How does a session for that work?
Okay. So in the initial session, like I said, is going to have that initial list of things I'm going to test.
Okay.
If very often people come specifically for allergies because they're so bad.
Right.
Right. So we may have a list that they have, whether it's from an allergist or by experience.
Right.
And then I go through my list and we compare the two, or really combine the two, because, I'm finding what they already have and confirming.
Right.
And I'm also finding the other stuff that they're not aware of, that very often the lower level type stuff, And then we do a treatment. Do you want to set up the treatment now? You want to have it happen here? Okay. So the treatment would be...
What if it blows up your computer?
So this is called the cuff.
Okay.
And the cuff is sending a signal from the computer, from the system, that represents a chicken.
Okay.
Right? So I would turn it on, and then with the other arm, I would do a muscle test. And your arm would go down. You're allergic to chicken.
Okay.
Then we would take those steps and delve deeper. Okay, what about chicken? Is it the white meat? Is it the dark meat? Feathers? All sorts of stuff.
Okay.
Right. And with each test, I'll know whether to save that item or not.
Okay.
Right. So the very first thing I'm going to treat is the chicken as a whole.
Okay.
The way it would be done in the old days. Just treat the whole thing, right? And the treatment is to use this stimulator down your spine.
Okay. I'm going to turn this way because we're on camera. So it's for the people who get to see the recording.
We're not plugged in or anything.
No,
but you would stand up, and I would have you. You don't have to.
Do you want me to? Okay.
That's okay. I would have you inhale for one ride, one line, and then exhale, and then inhale, and then exhale again. Okay. And that's really the treatment. It's as simple as that. It's a little bit of pressure down the spine. And this is adjustable. It can be heavy for bigger people, or when there's kids and, treating a kid, I'm got this way down, just a little tap. And what it's really doing is it's stimulating the nerve plexus as they branch out from the spine. And they innervate the entire digestive system,
right,
which is where most of our immune function is.
Right.
So we're sending a positive signal to the body that what they're being exposed to is not dangerous. This is the reset treatment. And then we do that again for the next lower level, and we can, check out maybe the acupuncture channels.
Okay.
We'll try that. It will test those and treat those. And then there's another set of tests that will test at the molecular level, the cellular level, the organ structure itself, the organism, the individual. It's just another way of slicing and dicing the person up and treating them.
Right.
From every direction. Right. And there's even a treatment or a way to change it. For example, when things are cooked, basically, when you alter a molecule, right? So raw milk versus homogenized pasteurized milk, chicken, right? Obviously, would be raw versus cooked. Which
I hope no one is eating raw chicken.
As I said, let's make that sushi.
Yeah, that's a better one.
Nah.
Okay.
So.
If you're eating raw chicken, you have a bigger problem. Don't eat raw chicken.
Right.
That was a thing going around for a while.
Don't tell me what to do.
I know too many people who are like that, Christian.
Apparently in France, they ask you how you want your chicken cooked.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No thanks. No.
All the way, please.
Yeah.
So all along the way, we're testing, and we want that arm to be strong.
So now, does it matter? So for those who don't know about muscle testing, sometimes they test to the front, sometimes they test to the side. Does it matter if the arm is to the front or to the side?
Sometimes with kids, I'll use their leg.
Okay.
I'll have them lie down because it's just too much for they're squirming all over the place. I can treat babies. We just test the mom instead and treat the baby, but test the mom.
Oh, interesting.
So I would put that on mom, and you would hold.
Is this
baby.
Because the baby is nursing?
No, because they're 18
still.
months old,
and this won't fit on.
Well, it would, but it's easier to just have you hold them
and then test.
Calm them. It's sometimes a little scary for them. But
so.
What's fun is, if you have siblings come in, they're both afraid of this thing until someone gets the zap.
Okay, so someone has to go first.
I mean, it's just a little pressure. And then the other kids, it's like, oh, I want that too, So even though he's not getting treatment, he needs to have it. He needs the gun. So that can be fun.
So no needles.
No needles.
No allergy shots.
No shots. No supplements. Nothing to take. Right. And you have to wait after a treatment, wait 2 hours before you maybe challenge it.
Okay.
And
people are doing that because when I do cosmetic acupuncture, I tell people, I'm like, the first thing I say is you are not going to look different after this first treatment. Like your skin may glow a little more. It takes more than one treatment. And that they go in their car and they're looking in the mirror to see if they can see any difference. So, so that they're going home and challenging it right away.
Taking pictures.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to read a couple of, let's just check actually before I do that. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to read some testimonials that patients have left for Dr. Rob. The first one, Dr. Balko was my last stop, but he should have been my first. Having a history of allergies, more specifically eczema, I quickly experienced much needed relief upon finding the Atlantic Center for Acupuncture and Chinese Medicine. It took a few visits and I felt much better. Not only did my eczema subside, but other allergic symptoms disappeared as well. Dr. Balko is a wealth of information in his field of study. I am eternally grateful for his expertise and patience. I have recommended his practice to others and will continue to do so.
Thank you.
Another testimonial that we have, Dr. Balko came highly recommended by a friend who had been healed through his AAT allergy program. I've suffered from allergies all of my life, and they had recently become more severe. Dr. Balko's allergy treatments are amazing. I can now eat food without breaking out in hives or itching. This fall marks the first time I've been able to enjoy time outdoors, which has been a life changer. Dr. Balko is a highly skilled clinician who is compassionate and truly cares about healing his patients. I highly recommend his practice. Another testimonial. My first experience was for treating chronic sinusitis. It only took 2 sessions, and 5 years later, I am still symptom-free. I highly recommend his allergy system and acupuncture services with the Atlantic Center. I can't imagine going anywhere else.
Thank you.
So do you have any other words of wisdom you'd like to share about your treatment with our listeners?
I think that's it.
We covered it all. And then I'm just going to... Oh, were you going to say something?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Like acupuncture, we get the usual skeptical person who someone has said, you really have to go, you have to go. And a couple months later, they're still suffering, and then they do go, and they're still not quite sure. And it's always fun to watch that evolution of
a non-believer.
I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Second visit, I don't feel anything. Third visit, I don't feel anything. And then, might be something to this.
Right.
And then fifth visit, they say something like, could this also work for such and such?
Right.
Now they're really thinking about it. And then they come in and they say, I have a friend.
Right. Do you think that this could help them? Yeah, absolutely.
It's great to see them, get better, number one, but also realize this really works.
Right.
And I can help my friends too.
Right.
There's this whole circle of people who, one has referred the other, has referred the other, has referred her son.
It's the commercial from when we were kids.
Yeah.
And they told two friends, and I told two friends, and so on and so on.
So we're basically selling shampoo.
No, we're far better than shampoo. Or as my kids used to call it, shampoo. I love kids' mispronunciations. It's a good thing they don't have Facebook and they can't listen to this because they'd be like, don't talk about it.
That's right. I'm mortified.
Yes. So our next podcast that'll be episode 7, will be Monday, December 14th. And since the solstice is about a week away, we will be talking to you, our listening audience, about winter wellness and staying healthy through the winter months. So sort of similar to our autumn, but a little more like amped up on how to stay warm and what you should do. And I initially, when we were planning this out, thought that we would that would be our last one for the year, the December 14th, and that we would skip to the new year. But Dr. Rob pointed out that maybe we should do one final episode before the new year on December 28th. And I thought, and we talked about this, that maybe we would do a little Q&A with our listeners. Like you could pre-submit questions that you have, that might have come up from previous things that we've talked about or things that we haven't talked about. You can make suggestions on what other podcast topics you'd like us to cover. And I thought that would be a good thing then, because I was like, oh, that would be the 8th episode. And 8 is like an auspicious number because it looks like infinity. And we would end 2020 with 8 episodes. So I was very easily talked into
It's a holiday party.
Yes. And it'll be like a little holiday thing going on.
We can invite Christian, see if he'll show up.
Yeah, he may never come again after the cockroach thing.
You mentioned spiders, I was out.
Oh, it was the spiders, not the cockroaches. Yeah, those nasty Australian spiders. I couldn't do it.
Too big.
For now, you can catch the replays of our podcast on Facebook. Soon it will be available on additional platforms, but it is not yet. In the meantime, remember to like and follow the Practical Medicine Podcast on Facebook. Follow our podcast on Instagram page. You can follow Dr. Rob and my pages as well. You can find the information. I link all of our ats when I post stuff. So you can find, mine is a little bit more quirky. I think Rob tends to be a little bit more serious. I also wanted to give a shout out to the Not Okay, It's Okay podcast. I think it was their episode 2 weeks ago. They mentioned potentially collaborating for a future podcast, which I would love to do because we definitely at some point want to cover emotional wellness, and who better to chat with than the experts, Hillary Shear and Rashida Cartwright. Their podcast records right here at A Shared Universe as well, every Wednesday at 6 p.m., but not here in the same room. They somehow managed to be in the fun room with all the toys, because clearly Ming and Christian love them better than us. We just get the red velvet curtains.
Excuse me, if you want the fun room, just request it next time. We call us out on the air like that.
No, I don't even know how we ended up in here.
This is the secure, undisclosed location.
Yeah,
can't tell where we are.
No, I think I'd get distracted by the toys, and maybe Ming probably knew that and was like, don't put her in the toy room. Or he was probably afraid the toys would end up missing and end up at Natural Alternatives in my office.
He has to. He was worried that I would take the Ghostbusters proton pack, so he's like, okay, we'll keep Christian out of there too.
Oh, so that's why you're in here with us. There you go. So I thought we could do a crossover, like they do on TV shows, where you start the episode one night, but then you have to tune in like on our night to hear the second half of it.
It'll be like the Law and Order Chicago Fire
yes,
crossovers.
Exactly. Don't you think that would be kind of funny?
That'd be dope.
And, when we have our episode on mental wellness, what better thing to do than keep it in the A Shared Universe family by having the wonderful women from Not Okay, It's Okay on our podcast. So thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. And I want to thank Christian for stepping in tonight. We appreciate you handling the tech aspect of our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And we will see everybody in 2 weeks. Thanks.
One more thing.
Oh, sorry.
Right. Holidays are coming. Shop small.
Yes, shop
please.
Small.
We need you as much as you need us.
Yes, we have lots of goodies.
I don't know if that sounds right or not. But I sell some wonderful stress-relieving tea that people love, in addition to some herbs to help you get through the holidays and eating poorly but extravagantly.
Yes.
Because what else do we have left at this point is just to eat to excess and hunker down until that magical moment when the days start to get longer.
Yep. Check out both of our websites. You'll find a whole bunch of goodies for the holidays.
Yeah. And gift certificates.
Yes.
Right?
What a better thing to, you can't get better than, or invest in your wellness. Oh, that's the other thing. HSAs and FSAs. If your HSA or FSA is running out, you can pre-purchase your acupuncture treatments for next year before the end of the year, so you don't let that run out. So
it's your money.
Yes.
Invested in your health.
Yes, because if you don't invest in your wellness, you'll have to take time for your illness. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Take care.
The contents presented during the Practical Medicine podcast include information about various modalities that exist to achieve health and wellness and are for informational purposes only. You acknowledge and agree that the following disclaimers and warnings shall apply to all content presented.
The podcast contains the opinions of Dr. Robert Balko, DAC, LAC, and Dr. Stephanie Lipnicki, DACM, LAC, and the guests of their show. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you have regarding any medical condition.
The views expressed in the Practical Medicine podcast are our own and do not represent those of all licensed acupuncture professionals. Always seek the help of your own acupuncturist or medical provider to determine your best course of action. You may want to use the information presented as a supplement to better understand your diagnosis or treatment, but it should not be the sole thing that you use to make important medical decisions. Do not use the content of the podcast in lieu of medical advice.
Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking care because of something you have heard on this podcast. Privacy is important to us. Thus, all people, places, and scenarios have been changed where applicable to protect privacy and maintain confidentiality.